What is your primary concern? Number one, what do you view as the threats to our nation's security? And two, how do you propose we should deal with them as a nation?
Okay, 2 minutes. Biggest threat to our national security, there's a number of them. Obviously, the terrorists are a huge threat. This Islamic State is like Al-Qaeda on steroids. They function more as a nation state. They actually generate $2 million of income a day because they've taken over oil fields and refineries in the Middle East. They're receiving contributions from all over the world from people who support terrorist organizations. And I appreciate the President's leadership, actually, with what he's doing in Iraq and Syria. I think there was a void in Iraq, unfortunately, that was filled by the Islamic State. That's what they call themselves, because that's their vision. There's 15,000 terrorists, foreign terrorists. There's 40,000, 20,000 in Syria, approximately 20,000 in Iraq. Many of them have foreign passports, Western passports, that they can come to this country. There's at least 100 Americans that we have identified so far that are there fighting with them. They obviously have American passports and can come back into this country. We have a number of other threats to our national security. The debt, $17 billion in debt. That is a legacy that we need to deal with. I'm very proud that in January that we passed, the Senate passed it and the President signed it, an appropriations bill that reduced discretionary spending to a level lower than November of 2008, the year I was first elected and the year that President Obama was first elected. That's a step in the right direction of getting our fiscal house in order. I think we have an obligation not to leave the legacy that we pass along to our children and grandchildren as debt. And even the chief, the military has said in a testimony that he views our national debt as one of our biggest threats to our national security going forward. So those are two things I would put on top of the list.
So I would concur that our national debt is one of our greatest threats, which then would cause me to ask why we spend our money irresponsibly. We spent $250 million paying people to not go to work for 16 days. When you total up the debt, $250 million is a lot of money. We didn't get anything for it. I can't rationalize to myself how that falls into the basket of fiscal conservatism. We need to be able to say, this is what this money is paying for. It's what we do, right? You don't just let money go unless, if you give it to charity, you know where it's going. You can say it's going for something, but to just spend it, it stops me. And it stops a lot of the folks that I talk to. So I would agree, and we have to pay attention. But I would argue that the sequestration didn't really get us where we needed to be. And across the board cuts, nobody cuts their budget across the board. You spend less money on discretionary spending. You might not go to a movie this month. You might not buy new clothes this school year, but you're still going to buy food. You're still going to heat your home, right? You're still going to make sure that your kiddo has lunch to go to school. The way we spend our money and what we spend it on, we need to be conscious of. The sequestration was an acknowledgement by both parties that they couldn't negotiate anything better. It was the last resort. It was the end. And that's what we got, and that's what we're living under. So I don't think that was the most prudent choice, and I still think it's not leading us out of recession. I think it's hampering what we could be doing. We have roads and bridges collapsing. It cut everything. We need to be rebuilding an infrastructure when interest rates are low and unemployment is high. Sequestration cut everything across the board. So on the national security issue, on this issue, we agree. Right? We don't agree on a lot of things on this issue, we agree, but I believe a year ago when we knew what was going on in Syria, we missed an opportunity to do something then, and I wish we'd had the will, and I know that our country was weary of war, and I don't want to send us into war, but we allowed a vacuum to be created, and now we're going to suffer the consequences, and I'm hoping we can stem the tide. I'm hoping we can. Thank you.